really write it in it, but you can. No, I don't want to detract from that.
Okay, what do you interpret?
I have some questions though that I want to.
So, Duncan and Stephen will now take questions. If you have any questions about the making of the show, or the run of the show, or maybe not the strike part, but about anything else.
I'll ask a
How
question.
did you find each other as collaborators? I'm new to collaboration coming from the singer-songwriter place as a guitar-based songwriter, and I just started the BMI Lehman Engel writing workshop, and I'm assigned as a lyricist. So I'm having my first experiences as a lyricist coming from a composer, pop composer lyricist. And how did you find that? And how did you, as a songwriter, and you, anyway, you know.
We met as Buddhists.
Oh,
That's really how we met. And we met in front of the altar at Duncan's house. I was the arts division leader of the Buddhist organization that we're both part of, and Duncan had moved to New York, and I went over to chant. We went over to chant together, and there was no motive beyond that, and we just happened to hit it off in this really profound way. And it happened that I had a play going on in New York about a would-be singer-songwriter. And at the time, I was also working on a play in London with Laurie Anderson, and I mentioned that. We were talking about music and stuff, and then there was a lyric in the play, and I showed it to Duncan, and then he set it to music. And I never had anticipated writing lyrics, ever. And I don't think particularly speak for himself, but I don't think he had ever anticipated writing with someone. And then we hit it off, and we wrote another song for that play, and then I continued showing Duncan lyrics because it was this new, exciting thing to me. He was setting them, and then he proposed we do a record together. This was a month after meeting, and I proposed we create a piece of theater together. So that was February of '99, and that's when Spring Awakening started.
Yeah, I mean, when I met Stephen, we just met, purely because it's kind of normal for Buddhists to get together and hang out and chant. And then, but what is not normal is that you then, continue a conversation and then, kind of end up becoming writing partners for 9 years, or however long it's been. So, and what was also not normal for me at the time was that I'd always written my own lyrics for my own music, and in fact that was the most kind of painstaking part of the process for me. So when I met Stephen and he gave me these song lyrics, it was just a kind of like a surprising discovery that it came very naturally for me to just take someone else's text and set it to music. It was like an interesting puzzle-like challenge, So it's kind of the inverse, I guess, of your situation. But and I also, Stephen's very prolific, and so I found that it was great because, and I write a lot of music, so not necessarily lyrics, and I avoid writing lyrics like the plague, actually. And so it was great because I was then able to kind of up my productivity because I had all this great kind of raw material to work with, and so so I don't know. I mean, we've written probably 150, 200 songs in the past. I mean, it's a lot of stuff. So and that's really like a joy because you're able. If I'm not feeling particularly inspired myself, I can pull something out of the stack, and the inspiration tends to come.
So, what are your favorite songs in the show, and has it changed over the years?
Well, so many of the songs have been with the show since the very beginning of the show, and then there are others that were written right at the very tail end of the show. The other night, Friday night, there were 55 kids from around the country and Canada who were here with finalists for the national tour cast. And they all gathered, and they were singing. It was in City Center in the auditorium. They were all singing the song Purple Summer. And Duncan had gone at that point, but we were all, we just had tears in our eyes. And I was remembering, they were singing, the little intro to that song. And that was the last preview of press night. We brought that in. I wrote the lyrics the night before, and Duncan said it that day, and we taught it to the cast the night we froze our show. So, I mean, I think you're asking something about which we have so many experiences and so many memories and so many, you know what I mean? So, in a way, this is my favorite, but I loved Left Behind, and it always made me cry, and I love Touch Me, and, you know what I mean? There's all these songs have so many associations and such. And then I love a lot of the cut songs that you've never probably heard, except that you maybe have CDs of our workshops for the last 6 years, and maybe you have, but, you know. Yeah, you know. It's not a simple question, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'll always kind of go to Left Behind and Touch Me. Yeah, those are the two that have consistently kind of moved me. And then other songs I really get annoyed with. But they're
How do your melodies come to you, and what's your writing process like?
I don't write melodies.
You don't?
No. I mean, I end up doing it, but I always think of things in terms of chords and harmony.
In terms of what?
Chords and harmony.
So
always
progression?
Yeah. And I, you know, well, when I'm writing my own music, it's just chord progressions or just motifs, I guess you could say, or just sonic patterns that kind of seem interesting to me, and then those things suggest melodies. Melodies kind of come out of that. But if I'm getting a lyric from Stephen too, also I'll write chords first, and then the melodies will kind of emerge, genie-like, but it's not conscious at all.
So if the lyrics are kind of sad, then will you go like into a frame of mind where you're kind of...
I'm not sure I've gotten a happy lyric from Stephen yet. So we're talking about a matter of degrees. No, I'm teasing.
We do angry. Funny. Happy, I don't know.
Outright joyful is yet to be one of our projects. But, you know, yeah.
Well, the show's obviously changed a lot over the past, 7 years. But how has it changed you as writers and creators?
I've learned so much about how to structure and create a piece of musical theater and how to use a song to tell a story, you know. And I think that, you know, we're in a workshop right now of another show of ours that has been in development for 5.5 years, I think. And I just learned so much. I mean, you know, I really think that we have, you know, and I think in a deeper way, you know, my worldview has changed from the experience of Spring Awakening.
Yeah.
That I believe that dreams can come true. You know, I believe that it can. So maybe there'll be happier lyrics to come. I don't know.
And there's also, I mean, it's this interesting thing of yes, we have learned a lot because we were, you know, new to this process when we began it in 1999. But at the same time, there's an aspect of sticking to your guns and making sure that your own aesthetic is not being cast aside because of conventions that existed before and may not be all that relevant for today. So I think it's also now we have the kind of courage of our convictions in a way to kind of say, oh no, well actually just because it's always been done this way before doesn't mean you have to keep doing it that way. And so it's made, I think, us more confident in our process, you know, and more willing to take chances.
You guys introduced me to the play. How did you both get introduced to the play, the original?
I knew the play. I read it in high school. And when Duncan and I first, I said we should create a piece of musical theater, and he said, well, you know, if he was going to do that, he wanted to create something where the music was really relevant today. And I don't, you know, who can explain these things? But when he said that, I just had this immediate thought of Spring Awakening. And you know, it was '99, and it was a time, you know, there's a lot of millennial thinking going on. So thinking about kind of looking forward to this new century, it seemed interesting to look backward. And I guess I could just hear Duncan's music in the play. You know, there's this sort of haunted romanticism in the play, and it seemed like something we could affect young people.
Absolutely.
That was our determination. Yeah, no, but you know, that was the subject matter of the play, and so